There's a difference between the man who's broke and the man who's rich, and it isn't the bank account. It's what they each do with the first hour of the day, long before the world wakes up to bother them. Let me tell you, the poor man wakes up, and the day happens to him. The wealthy man wakes up, and he happens to the day. Same sunrise, same 24 hours, different result. Now, don't miss this. I know something about waking up broke. At age 25, I had pennies in my pocket and nothing in the bank. The creditors were calling, saying, "Hey, you told us the check was in the mail. What's the deal?" And I'm getting embarrassed by that. Big mouth me with all the fancy promises I made to get married, and I'm way behind on those promises. I lived in America, 25 years old, nice family, every reason to do well. And I'm messed up. So if you're sitting there this morning behind in life, out of work, in debt, just stuck, tired, half looking for money and half looking for somebody to tell you the truth, I'm not going to look down on you. I sat in your chair. I know what it's like to wake up with that weight on your chest before your feet even hit the floor. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to hand you the way up. And the way up starts in the morning. Because here's what I learned. The whole secret of how your life turns out is hiding in what you do when nobody's watching, in the small hours, in the small choices. Things don't just happen. Things happen just. Let me tell you how I found out. At age 25, the miracle happened for me. Good fortune came my way. And who can explain good fortune? I don't know. My good fortune was I met a very wealthy man. His name was Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf. A friend of mine had gone to work for him and started telling me about this man. He said, "You've got to meet this man I've gone to work for. He's wealthy, but he's easy to talk to. And he's got a unique philosophy of life." I met him. I was impressed. He was wealthy. Sure enough, he was easy to talk to. Within a few minutes, I said to myself, farm boy from Idaho, if I could be like him, I'd give anything. A few months later, he took a liking to me, hired me, and I spent the next 5 years in his employ. He coached me. He taught me the books to read. He taught me the disciplines. He taught me the changes to make in my language and personality. And one day early on, Mr. Schoaf sat me down and said, "Well, Mr. Rohn, let's just go through a little summary here." He said, "In the last 6 years, how much money have you saved and invested?" I said, "What?" "Zero." He said, "You have messed up." He said, "How many books have you read in the last 90 days? I said, "What?" "Zero." He said, "In the last 6 months, how many classes have you taken to improve your skills?" I said, "How many?" "Zero." He said, "You have messed up." Now that stung. But he didn't leave me in the shame. He turned right around and handed me the way up. He said, "Here's the secret, Mr. Rohn. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job." Once I got that, it turned my life around. He said, "If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune." Think about it. If you would have known me at age 25, you'd have said, "Jim Rohn's a hard worker. I don't mind coming a little early, staying a little late." And you'd say, "Well, how come he's got pennies in his pocket and nothing in the bank and behind on his promises?" Well, I was a hard worker. But I was working hard on my job, not on myself. So here's the first thing the wealthy do every morning that the poor don't. The poor man gets up and goes straight to work on his job. The wealthy man gets up and works first on himself, before the job, before the world. He spends the first hour becoming more valuable because he knows income seldom exceeds personal development. If you want to do better, you've got to become better. For things to change, you have to change. Now let me give you a picture of how the morning either makes you or breaks you, because it doesn't look dramatic. That's the trap. Not long ago, midnight, we're getting ready to go to bed. My father's eating what he calls his midnight snack, a little bite to eat before you go to bed. And I'm watching him eat this midnight snack. Guess what he had? An apple, a few graham crackers, and a glass of grapefruit juice. I said, "No wonder my father's so healthy." An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Good question for this intelligent audience. What if that's true? You say, "Well, Mr. Rohn, if that's true, that would be easy to do." Then what's the problem? It's easy not to do. It's easy not to adopt it as your own personal philosophy. Now don't miss this. The guy messed up says, "A Hershey bar a day." And I say, no. You've been watching too much television. It is not Hershey bar. You've got to be smarter in philosophy than to fall for the Hershey bar a day when it's an apple a day. And here's why this matters in the morning, my friend. Just because disaster doesn't fall on us at the end of the first day doesn't mean disaster isn't coming. You've got to be so smart that you look down the road and say, "Well, the errors in my present judgment, what's that going to cost me in 1 year, 6 years, 1 month, 6 months?" Because here's the formula for failure. A few errors in judgment repeated every day, and here's the formula for success. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. That's the whole thing. That's the difference between the millionaire's morning and the broke man's morning. It isn't one giant act. It's the small ones, repeated, stacked up over the years until they become a fortune or a regret. You could do it, and you should do it, and you don't. What's a stronger word? You won't. Don't might mean you're careless. Won't probably means you're stubborn. And either one is called disaster. You could change, you should change, you won't change. That's called accumulated disaster. In 6 years, you'll be explaining instead of celebrating. Having some ragged list like I had, reasons for not doing well, pennies in my pocket. But if you'll just start the process of change, could, should, and will, you can start this whole thing. And if you will then put it into action, the miracle belongs to you. Now somebody asked, Mr. Rohn, where does change start? Does it start with getting excited, with inspiration? No. Let me tell you about my own personal moment. Change doesn't start with inspiration. Change doesn't start with somebody getting excited. Change starts with disgust, getting sick and tired of being sick and tired. One day I said, I've had it. So let me give you the framework. Write this down. There are 4 emotions that can help change anything, and the morning is exactly where you put them to work. Number 1 is disgust. Not at somebody else. Disgust with your own current condition. Disgust with your own lack of results. Saying one day, I've had it. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. That's where it starts. Not in the bank, in the gut. One morning you look in the mirror and you finally had enough of the man looking back, enough to do something about him. Number 2 is decision. Most people leave their decisions floating. They never come down on one side. The wealthy man decides in the morning what kind of day this is going to be before the day decides for him. Number 3 is desire. The wanting that pulls you out of bed before you have to. Now here's the honest part. Sometimes you can't even explain where the desire comes from, and you don't need to. You just need to let it get a hold of you and not let go. And number 4 is resolve. Resolve simply says, I will. 2 of the strongest words you can say in the morning. I will. Say it till it's true. Disgust, decision, desire, resolve. 4 emotions. You can run them all before breakfast. The poor man waits for circumstances to hand him those feelings. The wealthy man manufactures them at dawn, on purpose, every morning. Now let me tell you why I used to wait for circumstances and why it kept me broke. Because you might be making the same mistake. I used to think it was circumstances that ordered my life. If someone would have asked me at age 25, Mr. Rohn, how come you're not doing well? It would not have occurred to me to blame my philosophy. I found it much easier to blame the government, much easier to blame the tax problem. I used to say taxes are too high. Top tax rate when I first started paying taxes, 91%. I used to blame the traffic, the weather, used to blame circumstances. I found it easier to blame the company policy. I used to say, if this is all they pay, how do they expect you to do well? Then Mr. Schoaf showed me the truth. Here's what's exciting about each person's personal philosophy. That's what makes us different than dogs and animals and birds and cats and spiders and alligators. And the ability to think, the ability to use your mind, the ability to process ideas and not just operate by instinct. In the winter, I'm telling you, the goose can only fly south. What if south doesn't look too good? Tough luck. It can only fly south. But human beings are not like a goose. You can turn around, go north, go east, go west. You can order the entire process of your own life. Each person's personal philosophy is like the set of the sail. The winds of chance and circumstance blow for us all. The same wind blows on us all. The difference in where you arrive is not the wind, it's the set of the sail. And the set of the sail is your own personal philosophy. And when do you set the sail, my friend? In the morning, before you leave the harbor. The poor man drifts out and lets the wind take him wherever. The wealthy man sets his sail at dawn and goes where he decided to go. Same wind, different sail. That's worth remembering. Now let me put one more piece on the table, because the morning is also where you decide what to do with your mind, and most folks decide to do nothing. Mr. Schoaf said, how many books have you read in the last 90 days? I said, what? 0. Wisdom of the world available. Change your life, change your future. And I haven't read any books in the last 90 days. My teacher said, Mr. Rohn, you have messed up. Here's what it says in ancient script. As a man thinketh, so is he. And here's the corollary. The book you don't read won't help. Now somebody says, well, Mr. Rohn, I don't have a library. I don't have the room. Let me give you that. If I found out today that any home over $200,000 has got a library, wouldn't that make you curious? How come every home over $200,000 has got a library? Does that tell you something? You say, well, I can't afford a $200,000 home. Doesn't matter what size home. Take your present apartment, clean out a closet, call it your library, and start acting intelligent. That's a morning discipline right there. Before the noise starts, before the phone, the wealthy man feeds his mind. 10 pages, a few good ideas. He's working harder on himself than on his job. The poor man feeds his mind whatever the television hands him and wonders why his thinking never grows. And there's one more. Mr. Schoaf said, not only be a student, but the good ideas that you develop from the books, keep a separate journal, write all this stuff down. He said, don't trust your memory. If you're serious about becoming wealthy and powerful and sophisticated and healthy and influential and cultured and unique, keep a journal. If you listen to something valuable, write it down. If you come across something important, write it down. I used to take notes on pieces of paper and torn off corners and backs of old envelopes and restaurant placemats and pieces thrown in a drawer. Found out, best way, keep a journal. One of the things I'm known for around the world, have been now for 39, 40 years, is keeping a journal. Good ideas for your health, good ideas for your business, good ideas for your future. So picture the wealthy man's first hour. He gets up, he doesn't reach for the noise, he reaches for himself, he reads a little, he writes a little in his journal, he sets the sail. He runs the 4 emotions, he plans the day before the day plans him, he does what you could do too, because none of that costs money. It costs discipline, and that's the whole point. Now here comes the hard line, and I'm going to say it plain, the way Mr. Schoaf said it plain to me, because care without truth is just flattery. We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And the difference is, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. You're going to feel one of them. You decide which, and you decide it in the morning when the alarm goes off, and you've got that choice between the easy thing and the better thing. So I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. Mr. Schoaf didn't tell me that. He said to me, Mr. Rohn, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes. And he said it'll all change for you. That's the hard truth and the hand up in the same breath. You don't need a better economy. You don't need a better break, a better boss, a better year. You need a better philosophy. And a philosophy is just a collection of the disciplines you run every morning on purpose until they run themselves. Let me show you what a difference one changed man makes, because you might think you're too far gone, too set in your ways. You're not. A man walked up after one of my seminars. He said, Mr. Rohn, you've really gotten to me. I'm going to change my philosophy. I'm going to change my attitude. I'm going to change my life. You'll hear about me. A few months later, I come back. He said, one of the things I decided to change was my relationship with my family. My wife and I have 2 lovely teenage daughters. I'm the only one that's given them trouble. They love to go to the rock concerts, and I'm always giving them trouble. They have to beg me for the money. I said, I don't want you to go. Music's too loud. You're going to ruin your hearing. But he said, after I left your seminar, I decided to change. Not long ago, I picked up the newspaper and saw an advertisement. One of their favorite performers was coming to town. Guess what I did? I went down and bought the tickets myself and brought them home, put them in an envelope. When I saw my daughters later that day, I handed them this envelope and said, you may not believe it, but inside this envelope are 2 tickets for the upcoming concert. And he added, you'll be happy to know begging days are over. They go to the concert, come concert time, they open up the envelope, hand the tickets to the usher. He says, follow me, and he starts down front. The girls say, hey, hold it, something must be wrong. He takes another look. He says, no, nothing's wrong, follow me. 10th row center. The only tickets they were ever able to beg for was 3rd balcony, can't see. He said, I stayed up a little late that night. Sure enough, a little after midnight, my 2 daughters come bursting through the front door. One of them lands in my lap, the other one's got her arms around my neck, and they're both saying, you've got to be one of the all-time world's great fathers. He said, Mr. Rohn, you're right. I can't believe it. Same money, different father. Now think about that. He didn't earn more money. The money was the same. What changed was the man. He changed, and everything changed for him. And it started the morning he decided to be different. That's available to you too, my friend. Same money, different father, same job, different man, same 24 hours, different morning. And the beautiful part is how small the price of becoming that man really is. Mr. Schoaf taught me this with a shoe shine, of all things. He said, Mr. Rohn, if you're getting your shoes shined and the shoe shine boy's done an exceptional job, you look down, you've got one of the world's all-time great shine, and you pay him. Now you've got a little change in your hand. Question pops in your mind. Should I give him 1 quarter or 2 quarters as a tip? Here's what Schoaf said. If 2 amounts pop in your mind, always go for the higher amount and become the higher thinking person. That helped change my life. He said, if you're thinking 1 quarter or 2 quarters, and you say, well, no, I'll just give him 1 quarter, that'll affect you the rest of the day. The rest of the day, you'll look down, see this great shine, and say, I've got to be really cheap one lousy quarter. But if you'll go for the 2 quarters, you can't believe the extra happiness you can buy for just an extra quarter. That's called studying and practicing the art of lifestyle, which means living well. And it's a morning decision. The kind of person you decide to be, the higher thinking person, you set that at dawn and you carry it all day. It costs you a quarter. It costs you a discipline. It pays you back in the man you become. So let me bring it home to today, to tonight, to tomorrow morning. It's not what happens that determines the major part of your future. What happens to us all. The same wind blows on us all. The key is what you do about it. And if you will start that process of change, do something different the next 90 days than you did the last 90 days, your whole life begins to turn. Here's what you can decide before bed tonight. Decide what time you'll get up. Decide that the first hour belongs to you, not to the noise, not to the worry, not to the world. Decide to read 10 pages. Decide to write one good idea in a journal you start tonight, even if it's a notebook from the drawer. Decide to set the sail before you leave the harbor. Decide to run those 4 emotions: disgust, decision, desire, resolve, before your feet hit the floor. You don't have to start with something staggering. Where else would you start? With an apple. Just an apple. One small discipline, repeated. That's how every fortune I've ever seen got started. Not with a windfall, with a morning. You don't have to walk out of here the same as you walked in today. Only by choice. You've been given the dignity of choice. The goose can only fly south. You can go any direction you decide. And you can decide tomorrow morning. So when that alarm goes off and you're lying there with the whole weight of being behind, being broke, being tired, here's what I want you to remember. The millionaire feels that same alarm, that same pull to stay in the warm and let the day happen to him. The only difference is he gets up and works on himself first. That's it. That's the whole secret the poor man never learns. Not a better economy, a better philosophy. One morning at a time, you can be that man. You can be that woman. I believe it more than you do right now, and that's all right because you'll catch up. Start tomorrow. Get up. Set the sail. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And in 6 years, you'll be celebrating instead of explaining. I'm telling you, the miracle belongs to you.